Okay, so we are doing mixture, and I want you to think about something. If you're mixing something, so say you're making cookies, and you add a cup of flour and a cup of sugar, how much do you have? How much ingredients do you have? 2 cups. Okay, you add. When you're mixing, you're adding. Okay? Okay, another thing to know is when it says kind and amount, kind is standing for like the percent or the money. Okay, it's kind of what's setting it apart from the other things. And when it says amount, it means more so like pounds, liters. It's more of a measurement. Okay. So that's to help kind of explain this. Also, another thing, this table kind of helps you set everything up to make it simpler. So I always bold this line with my pen or pencil and this line, and you'll see why as we go. Okay, so when setting these up, I want you to realize that what you put on top is what you're mixing. It's what you have, / mixing. Okay. It's what you're combining. The bottom is what you're creating. It's your mixture. That's supposed to just say create. Okay, and that's how you'll set it up every single time. The top 2 can be flip-flopped, it doesn't matter. Okay, but the bottom should every single time be trying what you're coming up with. Okay, so if we read this first one, it says a chemist has one solution that's 50% sulfuric acid and another that's 20% sulfuric acid. How much of each should she use to make 12 liters of a solution that's 30% sulfuric acid? What am I trying to create? Yeah, 12 liters of a solution that's 30% sulfuric acid. So my kind here is percent, and my amount is liters. And I'm trying to make 12 liters of the 30%. So 12 liters is my amount. Now, the only thing you'll ever change when plugging in is percents, because what do we have to turn percents into for equations? Decimals. So what is 30% as a decimal? 0.30 or 0.3. So I'm creating my 30%, and I'll label it on the outside a lot. Okay, so there's what I'm creating. And it tells you the chemist has a 50% solution and a 20% solution. Well, what we have to mix goes on top. So I have a 50% solution, so 0.5, and I have a 20% solution, which is 0.2. Now if you need to, you could put the zeros so it doesn't look like a dot for multiplying, I don't know. Now, do we know anything about the amounts? No. All we know is that together it creates 12. And I will tell you, these should always equal this. Because, think about it, when you're combining things, if I combine a cup and another cup, 1 plus 1 is 2, so my total should be 2. So your amount should always add up to your creation's amount. So knowing that my first unknown is always x, if it doesn't specify. And how would I find what's left over to put in the second one? Because I can't use a different variable, because then I can't solve. Okay, and I don't know. It could be equal, they could be different, we don't know. So I can't just use x again. Okay, so think about it this way. If I have a cup of flour already in my bowl, and I need 3 cups, how many am I missing? 2. How did you figure that out? Subtracting. You subtract your total minus whatever you already had, right? So my total minus whatever I had the first time. This is what you do when you're given the total and you don't know how it's split. Well, these two should always add up to this. Well, don't x and negative x cancel each other if you're adding? Yeah, and doesn't 12 equal 12? So it works. They add up, so we're good. So knowing that, that's really the new part. Everything else from here is not new. Okay? So just plugging in that left side. And if it's a little confusing right now, that's okay. We're going to do 2 more, and by the end, it should make a little more sense, okay? So before we start figuring out our answer, we have to multiply kind times amount. So we have this equals this. So 0.5 times x is 0.5x. Here I have to distribute because there's two terms. So 0.2 times 12. Y'all use your calculators. Don't confuse yourself. I get 2.4 minus 0.2 times negative x, so negative 0.2x. All three rows, so 0.3 times 12, if you type, is 3.6. And what did we say mixing is? Adding. So we are going to add what we're mixing, which is the top two, that's what we're mixing, to equal the bottom, what we created. So 0.5x plus 2.4 minus 0.2x equals 3.6. Now, one of the most common mistakes I've seen today is people accidentally like moving decimals when they're solving. No decimals should move. Yes? So be careful with that. So first things first, when we're solving is we simplify both sides. Are both sides fully simplified? Which side's not? The left side. What do I need to do to simplify it? Combine. I have a like term here and here. And what's 0.5 times or minus 0.2? Yeah, 0.3x plus 2.4. Now, how do I solve this? I'm going to subtract 2.4 on both sides because I don't have an x on this side, so I don't want to move my x. So I have 0.3x equals 1.2. Type that in my calculator. And what's my last step? Divide both sides by 0.3. So if I do divide 0.3, I get 4. Now, before I start saying, okay, 4 is my answer, box it and be done, I always have to go back and see what it's asking me. Okay, so this one says, how much of each should she use to make her solution? So I want to know the amount for both of these. Well, what does x equal? So x equals 4. So how much of the 50% solution do I need? Well, x equals 4, and it's just x. So it's just 4, right? So 4 liters of 50% solution. And then for the 20% solution, I have 12 minus x. Well, what does x equal? So what's 12 minus 4? What's 8 plus 4? Did it add up to my total amount? So there's your answer. So make sure you're always reading what it's asking for after you solve for x. Any questions there? Okay, so let's look at another one. So we have this one again. I'm going to bold my lines. Okay. And it says fancy cashews are not selling at $9 per pound because they're too expensive. However, hazelnuts are selling well at $6 per pound. How many pounds of hazelnuts should be combined with 50 pounds of cashews to obtain a mixture that can be sold for $7 per pound? So I know that my kind is going to be money because I don't have any percents here and I have money. Okay. And I also know that my amount is going to be in pounds. What am I mixing? Cashews and hazelnuts. So cashews, hazelnuts. How much was a cashew per pound? So that's my kind for cashews. How much was hazelnuts per pound? 6. And what did it want to create? What was the mixture going to sell for? So obtain a mixture, which means create a mixture that can be sold for $7 per pound. So my mixture is $7. Everybody okay with that side? Yes. Well, like they're not selling a lot of them. They cost $9, but that's expensive. So they're not like doing very well selling them, but they cost $9 per pound. Okay, so then it says cashews. So it doesn't say anything about amount in that first sentence. $6 per pound. And then it says how many pounds of hazelnuts. So do I know how many if it's asking? Yeah, so hazelnuts, the amount is X because it said how many pounds of hazelnuts. Should be combined with 50 pounds of cashews. So how much cashews? 50. To obtain my mixture sold for 7. Well, it didn't tell me my final amount, but I know these, and I know if I'm mixing them, shouldn't it be those two added together? Yeah, so 50 plus X. Any questions with what we've done so far? Everybody okay with how we plug those in? Okay, so now we're multiplying. What's 9 times 50? 450. 6 times X. And now down here I have to distribute because there's two terms. 7 times 50 is 350 plus 7 times X is 7X. And now that we have our K times A, we're adding. So 450 plus 6X equals 350 plus 7X. Are both sides fully simplified so far? Like, can we simplify this side? No. Can we simplify this side? No. So we can't simplify anything, so now we're going to start moving things. I always like to move my smallest variable first, so what am I going to move? Yeah, minus 6X minus 6X. That leaves me with 450 equals 350 plus 1X. What could I put instead of 1X? Yeah, I want you to realize 1X and X are the same thing. So now what do? Subtract 350 from both sides. And I get X equals what? 100. Now before we box that and call it a day, what do we need to do? Read the question. So it says how many pounds of hazelnuts? Here's hazelnuts. What represents the amount? X. So what's my answer? 100 what? Pounds. If you want to say pounds of hazelnuts, that's fine. But if you just say pounds, I'm okay with that. As long as it has some form of label that makes sense. Okay. Now, what if, I know it didn't ask this, but what if it said, how many pounds would your mixture be? Well, what represents the amount of our mixture? What's 50 plus X? Yeah, because X is 100, so 50 plus 100 is 150. So if it asked that, your answer would have been 150 pounds. Does that make sense? Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay, last one together, and then I am going to go over a couple things on your practice, and then we'll be done. Okay, so again, I'm going to bold my lines. And it says how many liters of pure baking soda must be added to 200 liters of 30% baking soda to get a 60% baking soda solution. So what am I trying to create here? The 60%. What's 60% as a decimal? 0.6 or 0.60, either way. And what am I mixing to create that? $200 liters, so liters is my amount. So 200 liters of what? 30%, which is 0.3, so this is going to be 0.3. What am I mixing that with? Not 10. Pure. What do you think pure is as a percent? 100%. So I'm mixing it with 100%. So just realize pure equals 100%. What is 100% as a decimal? Well, here's your decimal. You move it twice. What does it become? 1. Not 0.1. Okay, not 0.10. Okay, it's just 1. Yes? So that's important to know here. So I have pure at 100%. So 1 is a decimal. And it says how many liters of pure. So do I know? And what do we use for what we don't know? So what goes in the amount down here? Yeah, 200 plus x or x plus 200, either way will be perfect. And now I have filled out the left side. Everybody okay with that? So now what do I do? Multiply. What's 0.3 times 200? $60. Okay. 1 times x. 1x or just x, either way. And then 0.6 times 200 plus x, we have to distribute. 0.6 times 200 is 120. 0.6 times x is 0.6x. Everybody okay with this? Now what? Now we mix to solve. So the top two get added, so 60 plus x equals 120 plus 0.6x. Both sides are already simplified. I like to move my smallest variable. Which one's smaller? No. 0.6. So if that gets confusing, put your 1 back, okay? So 1 is more than 0.6, so mine is 0.6x. And that leaves me as 60 plus 0.4x equals 120. Now what? Subtract 60. And I have 0.4x equals 60. Now what? And I get x equals what?
150.
Do I just box 150 and call it a day? No, I have to go read the question. It says how many liters of pure? What represents liters of pure? X, so it's 150 what? Liters. Okay, so that's your notes. But like I said, there's a couple things I want to show you on your practice. Okay, so look at number 1. This is a common mistake I've seen quite a bit today. Okay, what is 5% as a decimal? 0.05. I've had a lot of people doing 0.5. 50% and 5% are a huge difference, okay? So please be super, super careful with those single digit percents. Yes? Okay, look at number 2. It says that Bo wants to strengthen, a mixture from 10% to 30%. What is he trying to create? Yes, what is he trying to do though? He's trying to strengthen his 10% to become a 30%. So what does he want his outcome to be? 30%. So be careful, that is what goes here. That one was worded a little weird. Okay, now flip to number 8. Okay, this one is the only one that doesn't really align with the notes, but you can still figure out all the same information. It's just a little more confusing. Okay, so I'm going to do it with you because the rest of them align with your notes pretty well. So it says a bag of peanuts is worth 30 cents less than a bag of cashews. Equal amounts of peanuts and cashews are used to make 40 bags of a mixture that sells for $1.05 per bag. How much would a bag of cashews be worth? Well, first off, what am I trying to create? What am I trying to make? 40 bags, so that's my amount. So my measurement is bags. And how much are those bags for? Because kind here is money. No. 40 bags of a mixture that sell for $1.05. Now, another key thing here is that it says equal amounts. So if I want to mix equal amounts and I know my total is 40, what are each of the amounts? 20. Now, I know nothing about the cost over here. Like wasn't given like just a pretty cost. But I do read this first sentence and it says a bag of peanuts, P, is, and I know I'm mixing peanuts and cashews, 30 cents less. What does that mean? Subtract what? 30 cents, right? 30 cents less than a bag of cashews. We don't know how much cashews cost, so we're just going to use C. And when I write this properly, what should come first? C. So I know that my peanuts cost cashews minus 30 cents. Do I know how much my cashews cost? No, but what did I just use to represent cashews? C. So this is how you'll set up that one. That's the weird one. Okay? If you have questions, what should you do? Ask. If you have